Why is it so hard to forgive yourself? You know you need to. You know you need to forgive yourself. You've forgiven people who have never apologized to you, but there's one person that's always been on the hook, and it's yourself. I'm going to say something that some people might disagree with, but you can't shame yourself into growing. Not like in a meaningful, sustainable way, not lasting growth, but you can grow and move forward with forgiveness, with self-love, self-acceptance, and forgiveness. So why is it so easy to forgive others? Or at least, why is it easier to forgive others and hard to forgive ourselves? Like many things, ultimately, it goes back to our nervous system. It goes back to our nervous system. When you forgive someone else, your body feels relief. You get to let go. Maybe you even feel like the bigger person. But the fact is, there's an instant payoff. There's an emotional payoff when you forgive somebody else. When you need to forgive yourself, it's a bit different in how it registers. You've maybe heard the saying, the body keeps the score. Your nervous system keeps the score. When you mess up, when you don't keep your word to yourself, when you stay in the relationship, the wrong one, for way too long, your body starts to realize, or at least like register, I can't trust myself. And that not being able to trust yourself gets registered or stored as danger. And once that wiring, once that belief sets in, you will start to treat yourself like the op. You'll start to treat yourself like an enemy. When you try to forgive yourself, your nervous system will panic. And it'll start to think like, if I forgive me, who's going to stop me from messing up again in the future? So it clings to this internalization of punishment for a sense of safety. Like this type of internal shame feels like control. Okay, and this is all in the perspective of the nervous system, I'm saying. And if you're the high achieving type, you know, those are my people, okay? That's been me. You get used to holding yourself to a set of impossible standards that nobody else knows. Okay? That self-forgiveness ultimately feels like weakness if you forgive yourself for not meeting these standards. Like you're letting yourself off the hook. And in a weird way, that type of shame is used as energy or like as motivation. Like maybe drop a comment below if you've said this to yourself, like never again. I'm never going to let that happen again. And, you know, you kind of turn this self attack into motivation. And this probably pushed you forward in a season of your life. That's why it happens unconsciously. That's why you do it, because it worked. Okay, but you reach a point where that's the thing that starts holding you back. And this really starts to make more sense when we add like one more layer to it, okay? And this layer is when somebody else does something wrong to you, you can see the difference between what they did and who they are. Okay, there's a distinction. There's a line. Okay, but when you're the one messing up, suddenly it's not just I did something wrong. I'm wrong, therefore I'm bad, and then the spiral, right? And then the spiral starts. And that's the belief, and that's the line of thinking that keeps you locked up, that keeps you stuck, that keeps you holding yourself back and in this prison of lack of self-forgiveness. So let's talk about what self-forgiveness really is. Of course, there's a helicopter flying over right now. Just give it a minute. How can we get better at self-forgiveness? First, I just want to say this is something I've had to really figure out. And to be honest, I'm still figuring it out, as is the case with a lot of things. But I have made a lot of progress in this area. And what I want to tell you is forgiving yourself doesn't mean pretending that nothing happened. It doesn't mean that you're making excuses, but it does mean saying like, yeah, I made a mistake And I refuse to keep punishing myself for that mistake. Think about it like prison time. If you've already served your sentence, why stay locked up? Why replay the same shame story over 1,000 times over the years and let that be the reason why you can't have anything good? At some point, you have to walk out of the cell and live again. And it's really up to you. No one's keeping you there but you. And when you don't forgive yourself, it starts to leak everywhere. It impacts everything. You start second guessing decisions when you don't forgive yourself. You sabotage good opportunities because you don't think you're worthy, because you haven't forgiven yourself. You don't let people get close to you because you haven't forgiven yourself. When people get close to you, there's this fear that they'll see the version of you that's unworthy and that's unforgivable, and you can't have that. So this is how you end up pushing people away. So how do you actually forgive yourself? What are the practical steps? I'm just going to share what's worked for me. I'm going to share what's worked with some of my clients. I've done a lot of reading on this, and to be honest, a lot of it is kind of airy, fluffy. So I'm just going to share the practical things that I think are helpful. Okay. And the first thing is say it out loud. Literally, I forgive myself for blank. Whatever that is, no matter how big it is, no matter how small it is, write it down, speak it out loud. Your brain and your nervous system need to hear you say it in your own voice. That's the step to taking your power back and setting yourself free. The next thing that you have to do is separate the action or the decision or the whatever from your identity. You understand on some level that your actions don't define you. Your choices and decisions don't define you. You understand that about other people. You understand that intellectually about yourself. Okay, but let's really slow down and just remember that. So you did a bad thing, or at least something bad in your mind or in someone else's mind. That does not mean that you're a bad person. I just have to say this out loud because sometimes you need to hear it from somebody else. I recognize, I might be the only person around you that's saying this, but you also have to start reminding yourself and saying this to yourself. Your actions are chapters. They are not the whole book. This is not a life sentence. You can move on. Okay, but with that being said, there may need to you may need to repair things where you can, where it makes sense. If there's an apology that you need to make, then make it. If there's money that you need to pay back, pay it back. And we're not doing this to erase anything, but we're doing this to prove to yourself that you can act differently, that you can move on. Whatever that looks like, this can be sorted out. Now, if you and I were to work together on a consult and some one-to-one coaching, we could figure this out together. But, this is the truth. These are the facts. These are the steps. Now, lastly, sometimes we really do just need to let go. Some things can't be fixed with people or, situations, circumstances that don't involve people. Sometimes those things just can't be fixed. And that's where forgiveness really has to step in. Holding on, it won't change the past, but it will mess up your future if you let it. We've said that, and that's really what I want you to remember, if nothing else. Now, something you might be thinking, something that I've run into when trying to forgive myself is the question of won't I just repeat the same mistake? How do I keep this from happening again? That's ultimately why we hang on. Okay? It's self-protection, it's self-preservation. And the answer is no, you won't necessarily make the same mistake. It won't necessarily happen again, because when you become accountable, that's what actually allows you to learn from the thing and actually choose a new path or a new action moving forward, which again, that's growth. That's learning. And when you forgive and let things go, you ultimately get to move forward because there's less shame, and you can show yourself that you really are a good person. And that adds up over time. So now it's time to make it real. If you clicked on this video, you clicked for a reason. Don't just watch it. Okay, make it real. What's the one thing that you've been carrying that you need to put down? What's the thing that you haven't forgiven yourself for months, maybe even years that you've been beating yourself up over. What is it? Say it out loud, write it down, and forgive it. You're not erasing what happened, but it's time to free yourself from it and to stop carrying it and beating yourself up over it. Okay? The world is already hard enough. This life is hard enough. So I think it's only going to get harder in the coming years. So don't keep yourself in a prison serving a life sentence for a moment that is literally already gone. I hope this helps. My name is Sid Scott. I make videos like this to help you and me both slow down and focus more on what really matters. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing. And I make videos 3 times a week to help you with things like this. Okay, so hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Peace.